Okay, okay, wunderbar, wunderbar. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do part four. Today we hope to finish chapter four and do some chapter five. Just get into it, restore it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that is good. No? Okay, here we go. Bumch, 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 bumch. Ba ba ba.
The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles a Gothic building in its turrets. The bed's draperies were handmade by dozens of Bavarian seamstresses.
Did they have running water in 1886? Did they have running water in 1886? Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep. Maybe Ludwig thought all this. Maybe Ludwig thought all this. I don't think the guards want to be bothered. I wonder if Ludwig really meant to throw himself from the tower the night he was arrested.
Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde.
It's a beautiful crucifix, ivory and gold. It's a beautiful crucifix. That's an unusual depiction of the Madonna. That's an unusual depiction of the Madonna. I picked up a tour tape in English on my way in. I picked up a tour tape in English on my way in.
The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments. This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism.
A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way. Or maybe he just... A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way. Or maybe he just wanted to be that way.
The paintings above the altar depict St. Louis surrounded by the seraphim. An interesting side note. For a period of about a year, the Louis images in all three castles were ordered to be covered up with black cloth on the unfathomable whim of the king.
A king saint? I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty.
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy. an ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see?
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into...
What were you afraid they'd see? I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking. These linens look seriously expensive and seriously old. These linens look seriously expensive.
The miracle of the Grail.
I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking.
Hi, Gerda. I'm back. Good.
Gerda?
Yes?
Have you heard from Gabriel at all?
No, Grace, I'm sorry.
Never mind.
I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now. A ticket to the Ludwig Museum. I'm not sure why she'd want to see that.
I can write some more research for Gabriel now.
Nothing else. There's nothing. I'm not sure what. I'll write to Gabriel, soon as I have enough info to blow his little investigation out of the water. An interesting note. Seems like I'm hearing from... Also, I'm supposed to help by using my positive feeling. All this involves a difficult trial, etc. Bottom line, if there is some sort of spiritual guidance for this case out there, I'm more than willing to talk to it. Other than that, I hope Mrs. Smith is wrong about how bleak this all looks. She certainly is wrong about some things. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig lived from 1845 to 1886. He built 3 castles. Wagner seems to have had a major effect on Ludwig's life. Find out more about that. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig was bankrupted after spending extravagantly on construction. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig and his whole family were devout Catholics. His private chapel contains images of the Black Madonna of Altötting, Mary figure, and St. Louis of France. He apparently had a thing for the French monarchy, but at one point had all the Louis images in all of his castles covered up. Mean something? Mrs. Smith thinks that Christian Ritter's letter to Ludwig about the Black Wolf and her own warning about the Black Wolf so soon thereafter are pointing the way to Ludwig. She says I should look into him. Herrenchiemsee. Ludwig had a good friend, Empress Elizabeth of Austria. Her letters mention a new friend of Ludwig's, 1865, and in 1878, Ludwig being tormented in some way which he won't tell her about. Herrenchiemsee. Ludwig's notes to his servants. Pretty whacked. This was not a happy man. He mentions needing money, and he's obviously pissed off at someone named Louis, 1881. He talks about the great friend visiting, and that they aren't to be disturbed, also 1881. I forgot. Last night I dreamt Ludwig rescued me from a pack of wolves in a sleigh. It was in the woods at night, and the sleigh he was in looks just like his real sleigh, which I saw in the museum. How could I have dreamt it so accurately when I've never seen the sleigh before? I never even knew that he took sleigh rides. Herrenchiemsee. After Ludwig died, Elizabeth of Austria wrote to a bishop thanking him for helping her fulfill Ludwig's last wishes. What were they? I hate the fact that everyone who might know any of these answers is dead. Herrenchiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death, June 12, 1886. Ludwig knew the conspirators were coming to arrest him because they'd been there once before. He'd asked for the key to the tower, supposedly to commit suicide. He never made it to the tower, but was instead arrested for insanity. He was taken to Berg by carriage, and on the way they stopped at a place called Seeshaupt. Ludwig talked to the postmistress there, but no one knows what he said. Herrenchiemsee, June 13, 1886. Ludwig and his doctor went out for a walk and never returned. They were both found drowned in the nearby lake. Murder or suicide? Herrenchiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death. His funeral was on June 18, 1886. The whole country went into shock. Guess they were pretty crazy about him despite his bizarre ways. At least the common people were. His body is entombed in the Wittelsbacher crypt at St. Michael's Church in Munich. His heart was placed in an urn in the pilgrimage chapel at Altötting. Last night, a man and woman from Pennsylvania showed up at the castle to meet the Schottenjäger. The woman, Mrs. Smith, seemed to go into a trance and warned me about the Black Wolf. Neuschwanstein. The entire castle is decorated on themes from classical heroic German dramas, a taste Ludwig shared with composer Richard Wagner. In fact, most of the stories illustrated at Neuschwanstein are ones Wagner wrote operas about. I'll write to Gabriel, soon as I have enough info to blow his Nothing else I can use.
There's nothing else.
I'm not sure what other case books. His Majesty has been in the thick of it ever since, and while I welcome his good temper, I grow tired of fetching letters back and forth. This author has not been able to learn much about Louis, but he was known to have been a seemingly high-bred foreigner. The king, especially later in life, felt a great deal of guilt. In many nice view of the Alps. I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now. Gerda must have really loved Wolfgang. Gerda must have really... Those look better. Those look better. Martin Ritter.
These coffins.
The Madonna. Von Rollick slept here.
Herr Huber?
Yes?
Are the Smiths in their room?
Ja, I believe so.
Could you ask them to come down, please?
Oh, ja, natürlich.
Now you just tell Merle what's going on.
I had a dream last night. I didn't remember it at first, but I saw something today at one of the museums.
What was the dream?
I was being chased in the woods by wolves. And I saw a sleigh. Ludwig was inside. He pulled me up, and I thought I was safe. But then he turned into a wolf.
So what do you think, Mother?
A dream of rescue is a spiritual guide dream. The High Priestess in Gabriel's cards must be linked to Ludwig somehow.
What do the wolves represent?
I'm a psychic, dear, not Freud. But the warning I got was about the black wolf, wasn't it? And the wolves in the dream. It must be the same danger.
It's so frustrating. The more I find out, the more questions I have.
Why don't you try a little communicating of your own? Ludwig's the link. Appeal to him. The answers may not come right away, but at least you'll give the guide something specific to say the next time she contacts you.
Isn't there any way that you could, you know, do a psychic reading on Ludwig or something?
To tell you the truth, I've been trying all day to make contact, but I only feel great despair. Ludwig's soul is not at peace.
I'd better go.
Anytime you need us, stop by.
And be careful now.
Thanks.
I don't have anything else to say to I don't have anything to say to Herr Huber at the moment.
My German isn't good enough for chit.
Guess they're closed.
Hey, guess who's back? Back again. Our wish cat.
I wonder what kind of flowers these are.
Okay, maybe you can help me out. I'm a bit stuck. What should I do next? Maybe I missed something on the map, the castle or something.
I wonder what kind of
How do I cut these flowers? Take these.
I wonder what kind of flowers these are.
I don't want to disturb her.
I'm gonna go back out to the map. Talk to Gerd first and go back to the map. Oh, I'm gonna try to use typewriter now.
I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now.
Have you ever played Gabriel Knight 3?
There's nothing else on.
Nothing else I can use in the biography. I'm not sure what other case books would be.
Yeah, a few things.
I'll write to Gabriel, soon as I have enough info to blow his little investigation out of the water.
So I missed something then on the map. I have to go back, check everything. I clicked on everything.
Who should I call? I'll write to Gabriel. Neuschwanstein. The entire castle is decorated on themes from
Yeah, the notebook's good.
Nice view of the Alps. I don't have anything to...
Okay, so there's still stuff to do in each part.
I don't have anything to say to her at the moment.
Oh, I haven't seen this area.
Looks like it weighs a ton. Ludwig's Grand Master wardrobe from the Knights of St. George.
Make sure to click on all the glass cases. I think the one under the sleigh painting is important.
Ludwig's Grand Master wardrobe from the Knights of St. George. Richard Wagner.
Do you know why I missed all this? Because I was in a rush. Couldn't enjoy the game.
Ludwig's diary. Ludwig kept a diary from 1869 when he was 24 years old until his death. The diary provides a fascinating look into the mind of this tormented man. The original diary is kept in the Royal Archives. A few entries are shown on the opposite wall. I've got to see that diary. Ludwig is Grand Master of the Knights of St. George. The Knights of St. George was an aristocratic society dedicated to the acts of chivalry. Ludwig loved the medieval pageantry of the order in his early years, before his increasing reclusiveness drove him to abandon public appearances. He looks so regal. Why would he give up all of this pageantry and become a recluse?
Because he is the Baron. Dun dun dun.
Ludwig, Grand Master of the Knights of St. George. There's gotta be a connection between all this St. George stuff and Gabriel. He looks so regal. Why would he give up all of this pageantry? I wonder if these pins have any symbolic meaning. Signets and sash pins from the Order of the Knights of St. George. These were worn on Ludwig's uniform, as befitted his rank of Grand Master. They are now the property of the Bavarian Crown Treasury. I wonder if these pins have any symbolic meaning. I wonder if these pins... I wonder if these pins... Ludwig and Wagner. Ludwig loved the opera of his contemporary Richard Wagner. He helped support Wagner's music through much of his life. Ludwig considered Wagner a close friend, often calling him the great friend. Wagner encouraged this infatuation, some believe, for personal gain. Typical artist. Even after Wagner's The midnight sleigh. Ludwig embarking on his sleigh. Herren Chiemsee. Ludwig supported Wagner financially, called him the great friend. Herren Chiemsee. Ludwig supported Wagner financially, called him Herren Chiemsee. Ludwig wrote a letter to the Munich conductor in 1882 telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera, but then refused to see the man. Nothing more was ever heard about this new opera. Was there something new, or was Ludwig crazy? December 14th, 1881, Linderhof. Order another work by Jennings on the occult. Write urgently to Klug, saying that I insist that the stoppages by the bank cease. I want it, and therefore it must be done. Write very urgently. He must succeed at once, and then must report to me urgently. If I give orders to clear my room, doing so must not be postponed as it happened. Pencils must be pointed without special orders. The day after tomorrow, 1,000 marks. How is Louis now? I want to know whether he looks unhappy. How often have I said that the coffee must not come up boiling hot, so that it can only be drunk after standing an hour? If any more correspondence come from Louis, they are to be burnt immediately, but I am to be informed of their arrival. These are actual notes from Ludwig to his servants. They go far in showing the king's state of mind. They were small. These are actual. December 18th, 1881, Linderhof. Every day get up earlier for certain. See to that very particularly. Write it down. Remember that when the great friend arrives at Neuschwanstein, we retire to the hall. We are not to be disturbed. I will not tolerate interference or insubordination.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Yeah, that was some crazy rules. Imagine walking for him.
Ludwig's Tagebuch im Museum?
Okay, I've cracked it now.
Wo kann ich Ludwigs Tagebuch hier anschauen?
Die Tagebücher sind ganz persönlich. Die sind in den königlichen Archiven. Niemand darf die lesen.
Aber
nein, niemand darf die lesen.
Danke.
No one can see the diary. Oh my god.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Im Museum ist einen Brief von Ludwig über eine neue Wagner-Oper.
Ja, ich kenne diesen Brief.
Wo kann ich mehr von dieser Wagner-Oper sehen?
Ja, ich weiß nichts über Wagner. Das hier ist kein Wagner-Museum.
Ja, ich weiß.
In Bayreuth befindet sich ein Wagner-Museum. Versuchen Sie es halt doch, ne?
Bayreuth. Danke.
Did she just give me a new location to find on the map? Yeah, I kind of guessed by her. Yes.
Grüß Gott.
Guten Tag. Ist das die Wagner Museum?
Yeah, you're an American, aren't you? I'm afraid the house is closed this time of year. It will be open next month.
Crap.
You are interested in Wagner?
Very interested. Very recently very interested.
Yeah. Most of the house is closed for cleaning, but a few rooms are open. I shouldn't let you probably, but...
You take me on a date.
If it is only you, you are alone, aren't you?
Endlessly.
Come in and look over.
That's very generous. What do I owe you?
Georg Immerding. It's only a few displays. Besides, I wouldn't be much of a shining knight if I charged you.
Thanks, Georg. My name is Grace.
Hello. Have a good time.
I think he's hoping to get her number or something.
Franz Liszt, composer and Cosima Wagner's father. Franz Liszt. Wagner's piano. On this piano, the maestro composed his later operas, including The Ring. Wagner's piano. Richard Wagner. Wagner's Death Mask. An old sofa. The death of Wagner. On Ash Wednesday, 1883, Wagner suffered a heart attack in a Venetian gondola on the way to San Michele. His wife and the gondolier carried him into a church where he regained consciousness. Wagner died 4 days later on this sofa.
Wow. How morbid. Hey, here's the sofa where this man died. Come and see it.
Wagner's desk, exactly as it was on the day he died. Wagner's desk. It looks like an architectural drawing of a theater, the Wittelsbacher Theater, München. Every square inch is measured. It looks like an architectural drawing of a theater, the Wittelsbacher Theater, München. Every square inch is measured. It's a letter from a Monsieur Beaujolais, dated September 1881. Looks like he's discussing acoustics and sound waves, and crystals. Wasn't Wagner's Bayreuth Theater already built? Why would Wagner be worrying about acoustics? The great patron himself. Ludwig as the classical Greek hero. Ludwig's Death Mask. July 1882. Great and beloved king, Monsieur Beaujolais and I have finished the diagram. We checked the figures many times and Monsieur is confident that it will work. 8 identical fixtures are to be made from the diagram and placed in the theater exactly as specified. I'm sending the diagram with your courier. Be full of hope and have courage. All will be well. Your own, Wagner. June 10th, 1881, Munich residence. Great friend, I am writing to you in the middle of the night. My blood is pounding too wildly for sleep. Tonight's performance, how can I describe it? I am unsure whether to be terrified or thrilled. Perhaps I even feel hopeful. If it is hope, you have given it to me, my friend, for the first time in years. We must speak. Something happened during the music tonight, but I must have your absolute confidence. As you love me, come at once. Your devoted king, Ludwig. A portrait given as a gift from Ludwig to Wagner. These look like production designs. These look like production. These look like production. These look like production. This must be a model of Wagner's own theater here in Bayreuth. This must be a opera costumes. Opera costumes. Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those.
What are you doing here if the museum is closed?
They always like to have a caretaker here. It's a good job for me. I can soak in the atmosphere of the maestro while I compose.
What are you composing?
This? Oh, a new arrangement. One of Wagner's pieces.
For the Bayreuth Opera?
No. I am only a student at the university. I study music.
Go to the opera together, yay.
Is there much of a call for conductors in Europe?
Ask my brother. He is the conductor for the Munich Opera.
Well, that's convenient. Does that mean you get free opera tickets?
Yes. I get a week's pass to the Opernfestspiele, the opera festival in Munich. It starts in a few months.
Hope I'm still around to see it.
Come with me if you like. If you're still around, I can go backstage and all sorts of things.
I'd love that. If I'm still in Germany, I'll call you, all right?
Yeah, good.
Tell me about Wagner.
He was a character. He spent most of his life trying to convince rich patrons to subsidize his work. Unfortunately, he had expensive tastes. You see, he believed that someone of his genius deserved to live well. Can't argue with that.
But Ludwig II supported him, didn't he?
Yeah, sure, but Ludwig came along very late in Wagner's life. By then, he had already been run out of Venice and most major cities because of debt. Ludwig saved him. And the music. Best thing Ludwig ever did.
Do you know anything about that letter from Wagner to Ludwig in the display case? The one about the diagram?
Ah, no. Some sort of equipment for Ludwig's theater. But I don't know why Wagner would have cared about this. If he was worried about any theater, you would think it would have been his own theater, here, in Bayreuth.
Have you ever heard about the letter that Ludwig wrote to the Munich conductor in 1882 telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera?
You're full of surprises, for an American.
What do you know about it?
No one knows anything about it. It's like a treasure map, you know? It's probably a complete fairy tale, but it does make you wonder.
You have no idea what it could have referred to? Maybe something that Wagner was working on with Ludwig?
If there was...
I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. Wagner Museum. Apparently, Wagner liked to live luxuriously and had run into considerable debt before Ludwig adopted him as patron late in Wagner's. Wagner Museum. One of the last things Wagner was working on was something with a Monsieur Beaujolais. Wagner Museum. One of the last things Wagner was working on was something with a Monsieur Beaujolais. In a letter dated September 1881, they discussed acoustics, sound waves, and crystals. Wagner Museum. On Wagner's desk at the time of his death was a diagram of the Wittelsbacher Theater in Munich, one with every possible measurement taken. Acoustics? I don't have anything to ask. Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those. I don't have anything to ask Gerda. Nothing else I can use. There's nothing else. I'm not sure what else. I'll write to Gabriel. Soon as I have enough info to blow his little investigation out of the... I don't have anything to ask. I don't have anything to say to Herr Huber. I don't want to disturb her. I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. Wagner's piano. On the... looks like an architectural drawing of a theater. Every square Wagner's desk, exactly as it looks rather simple considering the grandiose stuff. Wagner's death mat. Opera costumes. Opera costume. I don't have anything to say to her at the moment. Ludwig is Prince Charming. He played the part well. Ludwig is Prince Charming. He July 3rd, 18. The feeling. Elizabeth of Austria. I have no idea what that says. Looks old, though. June 7th, 1886. A group of men arrive at Neuschwanstein Castle demanding to take the king in custody. With them is Dr. Guden, the doctor who had been in charge of Otto, the king's mentally ill brother. The men have an order for the king's arrest on the grounds of insanity. They are refused admittance by a brave group of farmers and local soldiers who have come to Ludwig's aid. They are forced to retreat to nearby Hohenschwangau. This is the first Ludwig hears of the conspiracy. Ludwig composes a pamphlet explaining the subversive act. June 12, 1886. Ludwig knows the conspirators will return. He despairs. He asks his servant for the keys to the tower. The servant, fearing the king intends suicide, says the key. Unbeknownst to Ludwig, the conspirators arrive at the castle. This time, there is no one to stop them. Ludwig is lured from his bedroom to the entry hall of Neuschwanstein on pretense. There, he is taken into custody. Ludwig is taken by carriage from Neuschwanstein. Even after Wagner's death, Ludwig still showed signs of obsession with the composer. This letter, written in 1882 by Ludwig to the conductor of the Munich Opera, instructs the conductor to make preparations for a new Wagner opera. The conductor went to see the king as instructed. When he arrived, Ludwig was ill and refused to see him. Nothing further was ever heard of this mysterious new opera. Was it a figment of an ill man's desperate wishes? Ludwig is offered a crown of laurels by the genius of immortal fame. (26th July, 1874). By the power of the lily, we shall have the strength to resist all temptations throughout the whole year. July 26, 1874. By the power of the lily, we shall have the strength to resist all temptations throughout. 26 July 1875. Solemn oath before the picture of the great king. Refrain for 3 months from all excitement. This oath has its binding power as well as its potency by de par le Roy, LNR, DPLR. What 26 July 1875. Solemn oath before the picture of the great king. Refrain for 3 months from all excitement. This oath has its binding power as well as its potency by de par le Roy, LNR, DPLR. July 8. I don't have anything to say to her at the moment. Wagner Museum. On Wagner's desk at the time of his death was a diagram of the Wittelsbacher Theater in Munich. Wagner Museum. Ludwig writes to Wagner June 1881 in an excited state, asking him to come at once and in great secrecy. He says he felt something that night at a performance of Wagner Museum. Wagner writes to Ludwig July 1882, saying he and Monsieur Beaujolais have finished the diagram. He says 8 figures are to be made from it and installed in the theater exactly according to the diagram. Wagner Museum. Wagner died on Ash Wednesday, 1883. Herrn Chiemsee. Ludwig had a good friend, Empress Elizabeth of Austria. Her letters mention a new friend of Ludwig's, 1865, and in 1878, Ludwig being tormented in some way which he won't tell her about. Herrn Chiemsee. Ludwig's notes to his servants. Pretty whacked. This was not a happy man. He mentions needing money, and he's obvious. Herrn Chiemsee. Ludwig kept a diary. It might explain his torment. I forgot. Last night I dreamt Ludwig rescued me from a pack of wolves in a sleigh. Herrn Chiemsee. After Ludwig died, Elizabeth of Austria wrote to a bishop thanking him for helping her fulfill Ludwig's last wishes. What were they? I hate the fact that everyone who might know any of these answers is dead. Herrn Chiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death, June 12, 1886. Ludwig knew the conspirators were coming to arrest him because they'd been there once before. He'd asked for the key. Herrn Chiemsee, June 13, 1886. Ludwig and his doctor went out for a walk and never returned. They were both found drowned in the nearby lake. Herrn Chiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death. His funeral was on June 18, 1886. The whole country went into shock. Guess they were pretty crazy. Also, I'm supposed to help by using my positive. All this I don't have anything to say to her at the moment. I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty. I don't think the guards want... I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking. I'm surprised people don't...
Alright, thanks. I'm just actually eating the moment myself. Sorry, I went to get a sandwich. I'm back.
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's The Tragedy of Lohengrin. Ludwig withdrew more...
What were you afraid they'd see?
The Miracle of the Grail.
I picked up a tour tape in English on my way in. I picked up a tour...
How to use the tool thing? Oh no, I'm using that.
Grace Nakamura.
Aha, wasn't here before.
More swans. More swans. I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over. The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival. This is the king's study. Ludwig spent much time at his desk, writing letters, drawing up plans for his projects, and studying his favorite authors. He loved poetry, history, and the classics. In later years, he also studied the occult. What affairs of state he did reluctantly attend to were generally attended to alone at his desk in writing. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga.
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I wonder why he was studying the occult. I wonder why he... I doubt there's anything left in there now. Besides, the guard would kill me if I touched it.
Wow.
I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty.
This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. It is said that during the last few years of Wagner's life, he came to Neuschwanstein frequently and performed for the king alone in this room. The hall is probably best known for its enigmatic wolf paintings. The original paintings were from the Parsifal saga, but in 1882, Ludwig had them replaced, supplying the description and titles of the new paintings himself. While all the other rooms in the castle show scenes from Wagner's operas, the scenes in this room are not from any opera that anyone can identify. It is yet another of the many mysteries associated with the life of the fairy tale king.
Why would Ludwig have wolf paintings in his castle?
Looks like there's red hair on reddy brownish hair on the neck of that wolf.
Why would Ludwig have...
Engelhart and the Blacksmith. Engelhart courts Hildegunde. The hunters track down Engelhart and Hildegunde. Hildegunde's imprisonment. The wedding feast of Hildegunde and the Baron. The Death of Engelhart.
Wait, she could be the werewolf, and she's taking revenge on the hunters. Oh, could she be the werewolf, the red hair, getting revenge on the hunters? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe.
The Death of Engelhart.
Nice view of the Alps. Nice view of the Alps.
Ludwig's childhood castle, Hohenschwangau, is visible from the lookout in the Singers' Hall. This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. The hall is probably best known for its
Neuschwanstein. There are paintings in the Singers' Hall portraying scenes from an unknown story, scenes involving a wolf. More than that, the story looks like a werewolf story to me. Plus, these paintings aren't the original paintings. Ludwig had these put in later, covering the old ones up. Perhaps I'm letting my imagination overrun my objectivity. What story are these scenes from? Why did Ludwig have a sudden affinity with a wolf, possible werewolf story? Neuschwanstein. Ludwig studied the occult. Also, he withdrew from his state duties, wanted to be a real king, but didn't have much power under Prussia. I should find out more about Bavaria's relationship with Prussia. Neuschwanstein. Weird. Ludwig wanted his castles destroyed after his death. I wonder why. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig was really into swans and lilies. They represented purity and majesty. Later in life, he became more and more reclusive. Didn't even want servants to look at him. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig and his whole family were devout Catholics. His private chapel contains images of the Black Madonna of Neuschwanstein. There are paintings in the Singers' Hall portraying scenes from an unknown story. I don't have anything. I'll write to Gabriel. Soon as I have enough info. Nothing else I... There's nothing... I'm not sure. I don't have anything to say to Herr Huber at the moment. I don't have anything to say to Herr Huber at the moment. Have you ever heard about the wolf panels in the Singers' Hall at Neuschwanstein?
Did my brother send you here?
No?
Probably not. It's only the letter to the conductor, the wolf panels. Oh, my brother thinks I am crazy because of all my theories.
What theories?
This is Quatsch. If there was a lost opera, a lost Wagner opera, and if one could find it, to a conductor, this would be like finding King Tut's tomb. But people have looked for it before. If it ever existed, it is gone forever. My brother says I waste my time even thinking about it.
I'm curious. Is there any other information that points to the lost opera besides Ludwig's letter and the wolf panels?
It's nothing. I'm not even supposed to have seen it. You see, my brother says that Wagner was too egotistical to have produced a lost opera. If he was working on something new, every person in Bayreuth would have heard about it. On the other hand, it was in Ludwig's character to have wanted a private opera.
But it wouldn't have been private. Ludwig's letter shows he intended it to be played in Munich.
Yes, but that it would get so far without Wagner telling others? Why keep it a secret?
Maybe there was a very good reason for secrecy.
For example?
Like... Never mind.
Like a werewolf musical.
I don't have anything to ask Georg about it.
What's that book in the case?
Cosima Wagner's journal is locked up for preservation.
Huh.
Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those. I don't have anything to ask Georg. Cosima was Wagner's wife, I think. She probably just talks about him in her journal. Cosima was Wagner's wife, I think. I don't have anything to... Wagner Museum. Apparently, Wagner liked to live luxuriously and had run into considerable debt. Wagner Museum. Georg is familiar with both Ludwig's letter to the conductor and the wolf paintings at Neuschwanstein. He mentioned the fable of a lost opera. If there is some music that was lost, and if it is related to the wolf paintings at Neuschwanstein, the piece may have involved a werewolf story. But to what end? Wagner Museum. One of the last things Wagner was working on was something with a Monsieur Beaujolais. In a letter dated September 1881, they discussed acoustics, sound waves, and crystals. Wagner Museum. On Wagner's desk at the time of his death was a diagram of the Wittelsbacher Theater in Munich, one with every possible measurement taken. Acoustics? Wagner Museum. Ludwig writes to Wagner June 1881 in an excited state, asking him to come at once and in great secrecy. He says he felt something that night at a performance, a Wagner performance. Wagner Museum. Wagner writes to Ludwig July 1882, saying he and Monsieur Beaujolais have finished the diagram. He says 8 figures are to be made from it. Wagner Museum. Wagner died on Ash Wednesday, 1883. I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. This must be a model of Wagner's own theater. Wagner died on that sofa. I don't have anything to ask. I'll write to Gabriel, soon as I have enough info to blow his
Hello?
Hi, Professor Barkley. It's Grace.
Oh, good. I have a name for you. It's Herr Josef Dahlmeier, and he specializes in Bavarian history, and I think he's somewhere near you are.
Herr Josef Dahlmeier. Great, got a number?
Yeah, I do. It's 4982-555-2234.
Thanks a lot. Sorry about the bother.
That's no bother. When are you coming back to school, Gracie?
When I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Well, be good.
Professor Barkley's Ludwig contact.
Hallo?
Hallo, sind Sie Herr Josef Dahlmeier?
Yeah, you must be Grace Nakamura, the American history student.
Yes.
I hear you're interested in Ludwig II.
Very.
Good. There's something I want to show you. Drive to Berg on Starnberger See. Meet me at the Memorial Chapel.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, wait. Was there anything you wanted me to look into before we meet?
Well, I was hoping you knew something about someone called the Black Wolf. He was a contemporary of Ludwig's. He lived in Prussia, I think, and he was well connected.
Never heard of him, but I'll check. See you there.
Thanks. Bye.
Be right back, just gonna get a cup of tea.
I'll write to Gabriel, as soon as I have enough info to... I don't have anything to ask. It's a memorial chapel. It's a memorial chapel. It's a memorial...
This is where he died. You must be Grace. Herr Dahlmeier.
Hello.
Josef. I didn't mean to startle you. I wanted you to see it. I feel him here the most, you know, more than at the castle. So, what did you want to know?
Professor Barclay says your hobby is Ludwig.
Yes. He was the last real king that Bavaria had. As a Bavarian and a history buff, well, that's enough to hook me right there.
But there's more, right?
He was a romantic, you know. A dreamer. And he was misunderstood, maligned.
Sounds like you can relate.
Me? Hell, I have it easy. At least I live in the 1990s. And not every eye in the country is on me. But yes, I can relate.
Wait, what? The water's moving, is it?
You know about Ludwig's diary, right?
Of course.
How can I get my hands on it?
I'm sorry. I have been trying myself for 5 years. They keep it locked up tight in the Royal Archives, and they don't let it out. They must think it contains things that will hurt his image.
They won't let anyone see it, not ever?
Only one person outside of the government ever got to see it, a biographer, Sir Richmond Chapel. He had friends among the German royals, and they let him look at it.
Did you ever try to contact Chapel, pick his brain?
No, and I don't believe I never thought of that. If you do and you find out anything, you must share.
It's a promise.
Tell him nothing. Yeah, it's nice. You can hear the water as well.
Tell me about Ludwig.
I don't know where to start. There's so much. Politically, the most significant thing about Ludwig II was that he signed over independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. Bavaria became a part of United Germany, and Ludwig became a figurehead prince under the Prussian Kaiser.
Why do you think he did that?
Bavaria had been involved in the 100 Years' War. People were tired of fighting. Prussia's push to unite the German states made some amount of sense. Still, Ludwig must have had other options. At the very least, he should have negotiated better terms.
So what was the real reason?
He was manipulated by Bismarck. At least that's what I think, anyway.
What about Ludwig personally?
You'll find two perspectives on Ludwig. The view the tourists get is the romantic ideal, Ludwig the tormented loner. Then there is the historian's point of view. Ludwig was plagued with guilt over his sexual orientation and was driven mad with self-loathing.
But I take it you're not buying either point of view.
Well, it's all too convenient, isn't it? That he was a devout Catholic, there is no question, and I'm sure there were pressures on him to be normal. But he was no prude. He loved Byron. Yes. Philosophy, the French court. If anything, Ludwig was too much an egomaniac. He didn't give a damn what anyone thought. And besides, he didn't try to hide any of his relationships. If he suffered from anything in his romantic life, it was disillusionment. No one loved him back as purely as he himself loved.
Well, if it wasn't sexual guilt that tormented him, what was it?
I don't know. His diary was filled with self-guilt, but I'm sure it's not about that. If I knew, I'd write my own book, set the record straight, so to speak.
Have you read anything about Ludwig's midnight sleigh rides?
Oh, would that have been something? To be out at night and suddenly see him sweep by with his entourage? They say the night agitated Ludwig, and that being outdoors and the rushing feeling of the sleigh calmed him down. Sometimes even the sleigh wasn't enough. He would stop in some remote woods, order his servants to stay put, and go wandering off by himself for hours. It drove the servants crazy.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about imagination in the 90s.
Tell me about Bismarck.
Oh, Bismarck. He was the Prussian Kaiser's chancellor. Not a nice man. Bismarck had a reputation for learning people's weaknesses and manipulating them. It's a matter of record that he had spies on Ludwig's staff. He may even have had a henchman even closer to the king. And he was involved in the conspiracy to declare Ludwig insane.
Also, if you squint your eyes really tight, the pixels disappear and you can see the real people just by closing your eyes a bit.
Did you find out anything about the Black Wolf?
I did. I'd read about him before, but I hadn't realized that was who you were talking about. His name was Godin. Paul Godin. I found a reference to his being called the Black Wolf after you telephoned.
I've never heard of him. Who was he?
Godin lived on the fringes of the Prussian court. He was handsome, charming, dangerous, or so they say. He was variously rumored to have been a foreign prince, a Prussian spy, even an assassin. Since you were interested in him, I found out some things that are probably true. It said he came from abroad in the mid-1800s, but claimed high German blood.
Do you know where he came from?
No. And he was ruthlessly ambitious. He probably found out who held the power, Bismarck, and offered his services. Bismarck was a good judge of talent, of that sort anyway.
What else do you know about Godin?
He must have done something remarkable. Bismarck was not a generous man. He liked to string people along with promises, but rarely came through. He did for Godin, though. He gave him a royal title and lands in 1863. And that was the last reference I found to him.
Well, how could he just disappear?
It's not that unusual. Back then, when you were given a title, you usually changed your name and moved to a place where no one knew your past, so you could act with impunity, or be a pompous ass and get away with it.
Is there any way to find out what Godin was called after he got his title?
Is it that critical?
It might be.
Well, you could send away for a copy of the entitlement deed, assuming it has been destroyed during one of the wars. Godin's new name would be on it. But you would need a research permit from the government to access those records, and they can be very hard to get. A lot of red tape.
Great. What do you know about Ludwig's hunting accident?
A couple of years ago, I was introduced to this great old man, a real old world farmer. Well, his grandfather was Richard Horning, Ludwig's equestrian. Oh, he told some great Ludwig stories. Sometimes I get lucky. Anyway, he said that after the hunting accident, Ludwig got terribly ill, that he had a fever and was acting crazy. They were afraid that the wolf had been carrying a disease or that the bite had gone septic.
A wolf bit him?
Yeah, it's not so unusual. There were a lot of wolves in the Alps back then. The servants were really worried, but Ludwig recovered, physically anyway. Horning's grandfather said it was the fever that broke Ludwig's mind, that he was worse than ever after that.
Aha! Gotcha, bitch. That means Ludwig became a vampire, but he's actually the Baron still, because he looks just like the Baron. That says definitely he is the alpha werewolf. I think I figured it now.
What do you mean Ludwig got worse after the accident?
Ludwig always had been a very private person. But after the accident, he got darker, more crazy. Towards the end, he was even forcing his servants to enter his chambers bent over so they couldn't see his face. Horning's grandfather said his temper was fearsome. He would fly into a rage at the least mistake.
Must have been terrified of him.
Yes. Well,
Definitely werewolf. 100%.
Horning's grandfather felt sorry for Ludwig. And
He's a
Ludwig
werewolf.
hated his own violence. He was always giving gifts to his servants to apologize.
Oh yeah, definitely signs of werewolf, erratic behavior, like the book says.
You mentioned that there were other reasons why Ludwig's servants feared him.
Ah, that's another of Horning's mysteries. There's a story about Neuschwanstein. Apparently, there was a period of time of 2 or 3 months when Wagner would come and visit him
Wagner?
there. Yeah. The two would lock themselves in the singers' hall. Horning's grandfather said the sounds that came from there were awful. Well, the servants had superstitious minds anyway. Some of them quit over it, just walked away.
What kind of sounds?
Horning's grandfather called them heartbreaking and ungodly. Maybe it was Wagner trying to sing.
Well, I guess that's all for now. Thanks for your help.
It's my pleasure. And if you ever want to talk again, just give me a call. I'll meet you down there.
I will. Thanks.
Servus.
Well, bye.
It could be Wagner trying to sing, or it could be Wagner and Ludwig are werewolves, and they brought people in there as their prey, and they murdered them, ripped them to pieces. That's what I think.
This is where they found Ludwig's body. This is where they found...
And also, was it really his body? Huh? Maybe he killed somebody as a werewolf and pretended it was his body.
I wonder what it felt like under there. I wonder what it felt like under there. I wonder what it...
Yeah, who wants to think what it feels like under there? Anywhere else I can go? Let's see. No, just here. Is there something I could pick up here? Clue, huh?
I wonder what it...
Maybe not.
It's a memorial chapel for Ludwig.
And I can't get in there, can I? I'm guessing not. Oh, I think she has enough now, does she? Oh, this thing says more stuff here and here. This is crazy. What else can I do?
Gerda? Yes?
Gerda, do you have any idea where I could get a government research permit? I don't have time for a lot of red tape.
You should ask Herr Übergrau. He can maybe get such things very fast.
You think? I was gonna write Gabriel today anyway. Nothing else I can... There's nothing else. I'm not sure what...
Yeah, sometimes I accidentally press the touchpad and I skip something, but I can't ever go listen to it again. Because I did miss the part where Gerd tells me to that I got a missed call. I had to call my lecturer back, but yeah. On the laptop, yeah, I'm not using it, I'm using my touchpad, so that's I have to keep my hands very far away from it in case I do it again. Usually just if someone has contacted you or if you have posts. Okay. Thanks for the heads up. Appreciate that.
I should get a letter off to Gabriel. I need to include a note to Übergrau about the research permit.
Yes, she did it. Finally, she wrote a letter to him.
Nice view of the Alps. I don't have anything to...
Grüß Gott, Frau Nakamura.
Grüß Gott. Haben Sie etwas für mich?
Nein, leider nicht. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Kann ich diesen Brief versenden?
Ja, 3 Mark bitte.
Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Did she say two euros? 2 Deutschmarks. You speaking the Deutsch?
Danke.
Bitte.
Danke means thank you and bitte means you're welcome, is it?
I don't have anything to say to Herr Hub.
St. Georg?
I don't want to disturb.
Gerda must have really loved Wolfgang. I wonder what kind of flowers these... I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty. I wonder if Ludwig really meant to throw himself from the tower the night he was arrested. The Black Madonna of Altadine. I wonder what her story is all about. Herren Chiemsee, notes on Ludwig. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's most important act politically was to sign away independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. It must have killed him, he was so into absolute monarchy. Why did he do it? Dahlmeier doesn't know, says maybe he was manipulated. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's diary is filled with entries vehemently swearing off an activity, but not naming that activity. Clearly, Ludwig had a secret, tormenting guilt. Biographers generally interpret this guilt as sexual guilt, but Dahlmeier thinks it was something else. Doesn't know what. Could it be related to the Black Wolf and/or Ludwig's spiritual unrest? It seems to me that if something tormented Ludwig that much in his lifetime, it's likely to be the same thing tormenting his spirit in the afterlife. Assuming Mrs. Smith is correct and he is tormented. Dahlmeier. Bismarck was the Prussian Kaiser's chancellor during Ludwig's reign. He supposedly had spies in Ludwig's household and was rumored to be involved in the conspiracy to rule Ludwig insane. Obviously, he would benefit by Ludwig signing over Bavarian statehood to Prussia. How did he get Ludwig to do it? Dahlmeier says he was a genius at playing people's weaknesses. Ludwig certainly had a few that could be played upon. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's diary is in the royal archives and no one was allowed to see it. The only one who saw it was a biographer, Chappell. Dahlmeier says Ludwig took his train or sleigh out at night because he was restless. Sometimes even the motion of the sleigh wouldn't be enough, and he'd stop and go wandering alone in the woods for hours. Tell me, friends and neighbors, what do you think he did out in the woods at night alone? Dahlmeier says Ludwig's hunting accident involved Ludwig being bitten by a wolf. His servants claim Ludwig was never the same after that the fever from the bite broke his mind. They suspected the wolf was diseased. Perhaps they were right. Last night, a man and woman from Pennsylvania showed up. I'm surprised people don't sit in. I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over. This is the final room of our tour. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. The hall is probably best known for
I wonder if Ludwig really...
The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this.
I don't have anything...
Hallo, Bertel München.
Hi, I have a book of yours on Ludwig II. The author's name is Sir Richmond Chapel.
Yes, how can I help you?
Well, I'm doing some research on Ludwig, and I was hoping you could get me in contact with the author.
I'm afraid Sir Richmond Chapel is deceased.
Oh.
However, his son is living.
Oh. Well, is there any way you can put me in touch with him?
And who are you doing this research for?
Well, I'm working with Professor Barkley from Yale University.
All right. Thomas Chappell's number in England is 41 20 555 771.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sir Richmond Chappell's son.
Chapel residence?
Hi, my name is Grace Nakamura. I'm calling from Rittersburg, Germany. Is Thomas Chappell there, please?
Speaking. What may I do for you, Miss Nakamura?
This is going to sound crazy, but I have a copy of your father's biography on Ludwig II. I understand he had access to Ludwig's diary.
Yes.
Well, I'm not even sure. He didn't make a copy of it or anything, did he? Or perhaps he took good notes?
He wrote down a complete translation in English. He said he couldn't make headway with the German version. Ludwig's handwriting was rather brogue, you know.
He wrote down an English translation. Do you still have it?
Well, unfortunately, my father was allowed to see the diary only on the grounds that he wouldn't publish the entire work. I can't let you see it. Have you tried contacting the National Archive?
No, I don't have the kinds of connections your father did, or the time.
That's unfortunate, but I really cannot let it out of my hands.
I understand. It was just a shot in the dark.
Very well. The best of luck to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chappell.
Dahlmeier. No trace of Godin after his entitlement, probably because his name changed. New name would appear on entitlement deed. Christian Ritter's journal confirms that he was after a werewolf and had connected him, with someone called the Black Wolf. Doesn't look like he ever got him, though, because the entries end there, and his date of death is given as 4 March 1864, same date as the letter. If he died for the letter, it was in vain. The original's still sitting here. I'm pretty sure Ludwig never saw it. Guess that old Ritter curse was doing its thing. Dahlmeier. The 1864 Black Wolf that was mentioned in Christian Ritter's letter to Ludwig was probably a man named Paul Godin. At least Godin lived in Prussia at that time, had that nickname, and was well connected. Godin was from abroad, but claimed to be from high Germanic blood. He was a spy for Bismarck. This is somewhat disappointing, since the name Godin means nothing to me. Guess I was Dahlmeier. Godin was granted a royal title and lands in 1870 by Bismarck. What did he do to deserve it? Dahlmeier. No trace of Godin after his entitlement, probably because his name changed. New name would appear on entitlement deed. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's most important act politically was to sign away independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. It must have killed him. He was so into Schloss Ritter. I called Chapel's son, but he won't let me see the diary. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's diary is in the royal archives and no one was allowed to see it. The only one who saw it was a biographer, Chapel. Dahlmeier says Ludwig took his train or sleigh out at night because he was restless. Sometimes even the motion of the sleigh wouldn't be enough, and Dahlmeier says Ludwig took his train or sleigh out at night because he was restless. Dahlmeier says Ludwig's hunting accident involved Ludwig being bitten by a Dahlmeier. When Wagner visited Ludwig at Neuschwanstein, the two men would lock themselves up in the singers' hall. The servants report horrible sounds coming from behind the closed doors, unearthly and heartbreaking. What were they doing? Wagner Museum. Apparently, Wagner liked to live luxuriously and had run into considerable debt. Wagner Museum. Georg says Wagner would have never agreed to write Ludwig a private opera, but Ludwig's letter to the conductor shows that the new opera wasn't to be private. Why did Wagner keep it a secret at all? Wagner Museum. One of the last things Wagner was working on was something with a Monsieur Beaujolais. In a letter dated September 1881, they discussed acoustics, sound. I don't have anything to.
They've grown.
Gibt's das denn, die Lilien blühen schon?
Sehr schön.
Ja, aber es ist doch noch so kalt. Für Sie ein Geschenk von der Madonna.
Oh no.
Nehmen Sie sie ruhig. Heute Nacht wird es kalt und sie wird sowieso erfrieren.
Thank you.
Father Getz said the lily was a gift from the Madonna. That's an odd way of looking at it.
That's creepy.
It was nice of Father Getz to give me one of the lilies. I don't want to disturb her. the Madonna. Saint Georg. Those look better. I don't have anything to say. That's the church in the square. I don't have anything to ask. I'm not sure why she'd want to see that. This is where they found Ludwig's body.
I'm trying to figure out what you want me to do, but I need more information to work with. If you can send any my way, I'd appreciate it.
This is where they found Ludwig's body. I hope I'm not losing my mind. I hope hope I'm not losing my mind. I don't have anything to ask Gerda right. I don't have anything to ask Gabriel. Cosima was Wagner's wife, I think. Wagner souvenirs. Richard Wagner. Richard. Franz Liszt, composer and Cosima Wagner's father. Wagner died on that sofa. That's kind of creepy. The death of Wagner. It looks rather simple considering the grand. It's a letter from a Monsieur Beaujolais, dated September 18. It wasn't. It looks rather. Wagner's death. The great patron. Ludwig S. These look like production designs. I don't see anything that looks like those wolf paintings in Neuschwanstein, though. These look like production designs. These look like production designs. Opera costumes. Opera costumes. I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment.
It seems I've looked at everything, but I still can't progress.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried saga.
These scenes are from the Siegfried saga. These scenes are from the Siegfried saga.
The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried saga.
These scenes are from the Siegfried saga. I wonder if Ludwig really meant to throw... I don't think the guards want to be...
You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde, the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and a 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom. It was this kind of The washstand actually worked by bringing in water from a stream above the castle.
Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep. Ludwig sure had a thing for swans. Ludwig sure had a thing for swans. Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury would help him sleep. Maybe
This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers.
I seem to have done everything, but I can't progress.
It's a beautiful crucifix, ivory and gold. The Black Madonna.
The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments. The stained glass window Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde.
Aha, I didn't see this room.
You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde, the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and
Yeah.
the 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 wood carvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king.
Wow,
In
14
the years
years.
before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source. In the corner is a brown tiled stove with clay figures of Tristan and Isolde.
Oh yes, this is not flashing now. So that's good. But I'm still missing something here, I don't understand.
Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those. I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. Wagner's piano. On this piano, the maestro composed his Ludwig's death. A portrait given as a gift from Ludwig to Wagner. June 10th, 1881, Munich residence. We must... July 1882, great and beloved king, be full... Wagner's death. It looks rather simple considering... This must be a model of Wagner's own theater, here in Bayreuth. This must be a model of... These look like production design. I don't see anything that looks like those wolf paintings in Neuschwanstein. Up.
Okay, I'm lost. I have done everything in this place.
Richard Wagner. Franz Liszt, composer and Cosima Wagner's father. I don't have anything to ask. Cosima was Wagner's wife, I think. She probably just talks about him in her journal. I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now.
Oh damn, I'm really stuck now. Oh, my head.
Herren Chiemsee, notes on Ludwig's death. His funeral was on June 18, 1886. The whole country went into shock. Guess they were pretty crazy about him despite his bizarre ways. At least the common people were. His body is entombed in the Wittelsbacher crypt at St. Michael's Church in Munich. Wagner Museum. Apparently, Wagner liked to live luxuriously and had run into considerable Wagner Museum. Georg is familiar with both Ludwig's letter to the conductor and the wolf paintings at Neuschwanstein. He mentioned the fable of a lost opera. I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now.
Grüß Gott, Frau.
11th June 1872. Louis has convinced me to think matters through more thoroughly before I act. A trip it shall be then, to Shahin. It shall not alter my purpose, I feel, nor shall his compelling. The treaty is the ruin of my beloved Bavaria, and must be taken to task. July 1872. The pain gets so bad, I cannot hold a pen to write, but the horror is far worse than the pain. He says it was an accident, says that we can truly be one now, that it is a great adventure. I believe him 1 minute, and the next I can feel the flames of hell upon my heels. May God have mercy on my soul.
Hey, what's this? So this is Miss Nakamura. It seems I've had a change of heart. Please keep these in the strictest confidence. Good luck on your endeavor. T. Chapel. Oh, so the man's son. He must have sent her the diary. Okay. So it's Ludwig's diary, isn't it?
5th January 1874. By the power of Mary, Mother of God, I swear to refrain from the ultimate sin and to remain steadfast in my flesh. Sworn by the power of the lily, Eleanor.
Who's Eleanor again?
30th August 1879. I will not falter, but will remain true. No matter the torment or longing, I will not yield. I will control the process. God grant me strength and will. By the grace and power of the monarchy and its allegiance. De Paul Leroy, Eleanor. 10th September 1880. It is all finished. Elizabeth warned me, and I discovered the truth at last. O most venomous viper at my very bosom, O lowest of the least worthy who ever breathed, my Judas, my devil, if I could tear my heart out and fling it after him in the dirt, I would. 12th December 1880. He continues to come, the devil. I will never look upon his hideous face again. He is afraid I will tell, and I might. To destroy him, I might. When I think of the accident, now that things are clear, I wonder, was it truly an accident, or was it the plot to kill me? If so, why did he not complete it then, instead of putting me in this torment? Could he have hated me so? I wish to God he had simply ended it there. 10th June 1881. Terror. Rapture. During W's music tonight, I felt a pulling. The horror nearly came upon me right there. Then the music turned, and it was gone. What can it mean? I must confide in the great friend. Perhaps he will know what has happened. 2nd August 1882. The experiments go better and better. W has proved as loyal and determined as ever I believed he would be in a matter of my salvation. He says he has the formula now. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera and to draw up the diagram for the crystals. Can it truly end? I scarce dare to hope.
Aha, so the opera can change a werewolf back into a human, maybe?
April 1883. The great friend is dead. How unjust that he should be taken from me now. Where is my chance at salvation? Why has God condemned me twice? 10th October 1885. There must be made clear funds for the crystals. Lies. Everyone lies. My own servants, what must I do? Must I sell one of my beloved castles? The crystals must be made. I grow daily less able to control my own will. How long will I be able to resist the ultimate sin? And the music is worthless without the device. Time is running out. The crystals must be made. June 1872. Louis has convinced me to think matters through more thoroughly before I act. A trip it shall be then, to Shahin. It shall not alter my purpose, I feel, nor shall his compelling. The treaty is the ruin of my beloved Bavaria, and must be taken to task. 3rd July, 1872. The pain gets so bad, I cannot hold a pen to write, but the horror is far worse than the pain. He says it was an accident, says that we can truly be one now, that it is a great adventure. I believe him 1 minute, and the next I can feel the flames of hell upon my heels. May God have mercy on my soul. 11th June, 1872. Louis has convinced me to think matters through more thoroughly before...
So who is Louis? The Louis boyfriend. Confused.
Danke.
I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to ask Gerda right now.
Have you heard of Ludwig's diary?
Yes, but no one is allowed to see it.
It just so happens that I have a copy of an English translation right here. There's something I wanted to show you. Read this one.
August 1880. The experiments go better and better. They has proved as loyal and determined as ever. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera. To make up the diagram for the crystal. My God!
Wait, I want to show you something. I am not supposed to have looked at this myself, but I am here alone all day, so...
July 1881. Richard returned from his meeting with the king. Never have I seen him so pale. I was concerned for his heart. He would not speak with me, but immediately shut himself up in his study and started working on a new project. He will not tell me the first thing about it. He will only say that it was time he repaid his king. It confirms Ludwig's diary. He wasn't crazy.
Yes, but Ludwig says that the opera was completed. Imagine that, completed. There's something else.
August 1882.
We had a messenger tonight from the king. He brought a letter which Richard burnt. I did manage to see a bit of it. It said something about a great night in Munich and that it would be Richard's supreme triumph and someone else's destruction. Ludwig then wrote that even though he himself would probably die, his immortal soul would be freed thanks to Richard. I worry for poor Ludwig and for us. Where will we be if his madness continues? Surely someone will put an end to it. Wow.
There's one more.
May 1883. I sent Richard's sealed package to the king, as he instructed moments before he closed his eyes forever. I could not even bring myself to care what was in it. What could it matter now? Whatever it is, I hope it brings the king good memories of Richard. He did so much for my beloved.
The package.
The package. Chapter 5. Okay. I'll do chapter 5. I'll take a break and I'll come back in about half an hour or an hour to part 2 chapter 5. Alright, thanks for joining me, Elvish Cat. I will talk to you soon. So have a good break. Wait, I should probably save it first. Let me just play this and then.
She sounds delightful. I'd love to meet her.
Oh, she's a hoot, all right. Just pretend you don't have a penis around and you'll be fine. Got this inborn need to rip them off.
Now I'm really intrigued.
This one time, I'd gone off to this, well, party, you might say. And it was getting a bit hairy. Well, Gracie... Oh.
Detta. Kom här, Kleine.
Detta does not speak English, but then she has her own methods of communication.
I should leave you two kids alone.
Oh, don't be silly.
Friedrich, I can't just take your date.
Why not? I didn't expect her tonight. And for some reason, I don't find myself in that mood. Besides, from what you've told me, you live like a monk down south at that castle. Your body needs some attention. Detta. Ta games ein Schlafzimmer.
Wow, that was nice of that man sharing that woman. Oh, I think he's enjoying looking at that man. Maybe he was watching them.
The American P.I.
Criminal Commissar Lever. I couldn't just call you KKL, could I?
Sit down.
How about KKK?
All right, all right, all right. I will continue on later. Either later or tomorrow. Thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate the chat. Talk to you later. Bye bye.